day 15 of my 20-day water fast. Well, it was definitely a long day, and it was so damn long that I once again didn't get to sleep until like 2 a.m. And so I'm doing this recording the next morning. But this is still for day 15 of my water fast. So let me just do the numbers real quick. Let's see, pH 5.75 again. So I found, so that's interesting. It's still at 5.75. It's been holding steady at that for a while now. My weight dropped down a little more again today, down to 187.8, which is almost a pound over the day before, where it was 188.7. So that's 0.9 pounds, so just under a pound. Let's see, liters consumed of water. What happened was I started drinking some water that I prepared, which, it was a 9.5 pH, 108 TDS, and then 217 EC. And I started drinking that water, and then it was coming time for me to head over to my martial arts class, which I'm now basically going there to just watch and take notes, since I can't actually participate. And if there's some movements, I'm kind of like trying to practice some of the movements, some of the movements and things like that, with my one good arm. But I can't actually do the full forms. So I'm just attending class and just observing and watching intently from a different point of view, which is also has been, it's been useful to just kind of learn from a different angle than just being in it and then just practicing it, but then missing maybe some of the bigger pictures of things. So, but in any case, I ran out the door, and like a few minutes after I ran out the door, as I'm sitting in the Uber, I go, shit, I forgot to grab my water. And so, I had done a dry fast on one day, a couple of days ago. So my first thought was like, okay, well, maybe I'll kind of dry fast it for part of the day then, which that basically worked for a while. So I didn't drink anything during class, and I felt fine. I mean, the tongue gets a little dry. The saliva in the mouth kind of dries, it kind of dries up. But aside from that, it's like, the rest of me is feeling fine. I didn't notice that I got lightheaded, there wasn't any like buzziness feeling like there was the day before. Overall, I felt fine. I mean, I could tell that I probably would feel a little bit better if I was drinking some water, but the difference was pretty negligible. So got through class. One advice that my teacher gave me, and my teacher, he's in his 70s, he's like 73, my martial arts teacher. And he's been training since he was 18. And so he's, gave me some advice, and, he's the one who told me which little, Chinese medicine stuff to rub on the, sore muscles and things like that. And one piece of advice that he gave me, or at least a piece of wisdom that he gave me, was he said that his greatest, he actually, his greatest moments of learning, of discovery and growth, personal growth, happened during the times that he was injured. And he's been injured a lot, over 50 years of being in martial arts and tournament fights and stuff like that. And so he's experienced it all: busted fingers, broken bones, fractures, torn ligaments, like all kinds of stuff that, he had to stop and had to then take a break and had to heal and couldn't, he couldn't be active. He had to sit on the sidelines and things like that, and had to just take the time out to heal. And he's like, because it forces you to slow down. So it's kind of, it's almost like I'm discovering with this fast, it's like, it's a little bit ironic. It's like the term fast, but there's, aside from the weight loss dropping off, which, happens at a rapid pace, if anything, I'd say, going on a fast is about like taking it slow, about actively going into a state where things slow down, life slows down, your life slows down, my life slows down, whoever is partaking in the fast, their life slows down. And then you start to see things that you didn't see before. You start discovering things that were in front of your nose the entire time that you just never noticed because you were just so you were in this non-stop running busyness. You were just busy, running, and then failed to stop to take a step back and am I even living the life that I want? Or just I got so caught up in just being busy that I failed to stop and check to see oh wait, I'm living someone else's life. I'm living something, or I'm doing something I hate, or just I'm doing stuff that actually doesn't matter at all. You take a step back and why the hell am I even spending time on this? It's like I could be doing something else, and so I really see that's another big thing that I'm discovering through this process of fasting. Is it's slowing me down and opening my mind. And as I feel like my mind, it's like when in this fasted state, your mind becomes so much more receptive and perceptive. It's like you're open to receiving more subtle signals. It's hard to describe. It's like you have to experience it because it's starting to kick in for me now. I'm starting to feel like I feel like my mind, my way of thinking, my ability to have things just suddenly appear and recall, and just kind of pull things out of the air almost. It's like I'm in a conversation with someone and then I just suddenly the perfect words just come to me and I'll say them and they're like, that was the exact thing that someone else told me tonight, and so it made, being able to do that is just making a real, it makes that much more powerful of an impact when you have those kind of conversations where you're just operating from a more intuitive place and just it's like I'm starting to transition more towards I don't need to think about what I'm going to say. like what I'm gonna say and what I need to say, the words are starting to just automatically just formulate and flow through. And it's a really powerful, it's definitely a more powerful and actually an easier and simpler way to live. And I wonder that perhaps a long time ago, maybe at some stage in human history or life or something where, when it was a simpler time with the food and like it was just all just natural raw food and everybody was fasting on a regular basis, that maybe it was just that that it was just a lot more people were just operating from intuition back then. The way they spoke and the way they thought and communicated, and so I've been thinking about that. I'm like, maybe as much as we've like gained so much intelligence and science and wisdom and stuff, in the process of all of this like modern day processed foods and industrialization, we've actually dampened one of our most powerful abilities, which is our like incredible intuitive powers. And it's only through purifying out all the processed garbage that then our brains are able to start operating back at their normal levels. And so, but it takes time. So I figured I wasn't going to really enter into this space until, definitely into week 3. So, going into week 3, going into week 3 now. So, so seems to be, right on schedule, right around week 3. That's when, a lot of the major detox has occurred. And now the benefits of the detox is starting to allow the brain to start to be working at an optimal level instead of being at a encumbered and I equate it to like, it's like, we have these incredible bodies and these incredible brains, and they're like high performance, like high performance Ferraris, like a Ferrari Enzo or something, like a Ferrari Enzo, or of course I know we're all going to electric now, so that the analogy doesn't work as well with electric, so I'll just stick with the fuel. But like a Ferrari Enzo, imagine you have this amazing, beautiful, like high performance, just and you're like, I'll just stick in some like, we'll stop at some shitty gas station and just put in some shitty 87 gas. That's good enough. And it's like, no, I wouldn't do that. And then you're like, oh, I gotta change the oil. And we'll just put in some canola oil, fucking ruin the engine, and it's like, or just like, oh, just buy some like cheap ass oil from like the convenience store and throw it in there. Like, would you do that? Hell no. You would be insane if you did that, because you would ruin your investment. You would ruin your prize. You would ruin your asset. It's like your body and your brain are the asset. Like we talk about having assets, but at the end of the day, the one true asset is your body. If you don't protect and invest in this asset, none of the other assets will matter in the long run. So it's like, I'm starting to relate to like, hey, I've been poorly treating this high performance vehicle that I've been given, and it had a few little quirks that needed little bugs in it that needed to be adjusted, and it has some higher demands. It's not a Ford Taurus. Maybe some people are like happy having a Ford Taurus, an old 94 Ford Taurus. It gets you from point A to point B, but doesn't get you very fast. Maybe decently, it's decently reliable. You could put shit in it. You probably could even put a little sugar in the tank and it would still probably work. But that's like, I don't see that's any like, wow, if you want that, then that's the kind of life you want, but don't expect for any performance. There's no performance. They're just the basics, and, but if you want performance in your life, you want to be a high performance person, you want to accomplish your dreams, and have big dreams and accomplish them. It's like you have to be this high performance person, and so you gotta like relate to your body and yourself as like, it's like this is a high performance vehicle, and high performance vehicles only consume high performance ingredients, high performance fuel, high performance oil, has regular maintenance, overhaul. And in this case, for us, it's like, definitely doing fasting, for me, like that's my maintenance schedule, refer to like doing, once I get through all of this fasting, my plan is to incorporate fasts, doing a regular weekly fast, or alternate day fasting, eat one day, skip a day, eat one day, skip a day, something like that. So I'll experiment with those, and I'll definitely make recordings about those and my experience, especially after coming off of a long fast, to see how much of that kind of translates over, and that if I, have any kind of hunger pangs and stuff like that, when trying to do an alternate day fasting schedule, for instance. But yeah, now it's like I relate to that. The fasting will be my maintenance. That's part of my maintenance on my body. So, I got the tune-ups. I got, so I'm going to the gym, building up my muscles. I'll be doing that, building up my muscles and my physical endurance, doing fasting, maintenance on my body, get, maintenance, detoxification, purification, keeping my mind sharp, keeping my body youthful, and then consuming the best foods possible, prepared in the best way, and like once I get to a place that I'm really happy with my body composition, I'll definitely, relax a little bit on the stringentness, but I definitely need to. I believe now that because I had that I believe now that I was born with a an insulin resistant state when I was born as a baby. So I'm basically preset to be obese. So because of that, this is going to take more work beyond just getting to the point of getting to where I want to be. Then it will be followed up by the continued hard work of then keeping at that state and holding that state and maintaining that state and maintain that state like for a very prolonged period of time, and being very diligent about keeping it and not allowing it to start to drift back, and keep it long enough to where my body eventually starts to readjust and be like, it's like its internal its thermostat basically, for what my set weight should be. It wants homeostasis, so if I hold it there long enough, eventually homeostasis will cause my body weight to reset to that new weight, that new physicality, that new level of insulin sensitivity, that new level of body fat percentage. And, I'm assuming it'll take a minimum of 1 year or maybe longer. I don't know. So, and so during that time, I don't know, it's like, I'll experiment, occasionally once I'm down to that weight, once in a while, if there's a party, may partake, maybe eat a little, take a bite or two of some cake or something. But now I've made a deal with myself that, my new rule is if I cheat at all on what I eat one day, then it's a mandatory 24 to 48 hour fast right afterwards to purge my system of what I consumed, and to make sure that my insulin levels get pushed back to low levels again. And so I think that's a fair, that might sound extreme to some people, but I think now after having this experience, I'm like, well, fasting it's definitely becoming, it's become a lot easier now. So, but I think that's a fair trade-off. So I'm just like, okay, I just ask myself, okay, well, if I'm going to eat this, after tonight, 24-hour lockdown, 24-hour lockdown to allow my body to fully process what I just ate and get it completely out of my system, and so that it doesn't turn into body fat. So, and maybe I'll start with 24-hour period, and then I'd probably extend it longer if I notice there's any increase in body weight. If the next day after 24 hours, I think I'll do something like that, where it's like 24 hours, mandatory. I check in with my weight. Has it changed? If it's gone up, if it's still a little higher than it was before, then it turns to 48 hours. And then once it drops down, then back to normal eating, healthy eating again. I think that could be very sustainable. So that way it allows me to continue to keep my body weight at the level that I need to keep it at. And it allows me to still participate in special events, birthdays, weddings, holiday parties, stuff like that I can participate in it. But then I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna be paying the price for it on my body. I'm just gonna fast it off, fast it away, so yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm discovering. And also, so then the next thing that happened was, so after I left my martial arts, I finished martial arts class, and then I hung out with my teacher, and then, he was giving me advice about things. Then I went to another event, that my friend was holding, and so I was there, and it was really cool. We did all these like exercises about going through your past and your future, and again, when I was talking to my friend, he's starting his own coaching practice, and I've always thought he should do that. And so he finally he lost his job at a tech company, and he finally decided that, okay, this is the time for him to just jump both feet in. And so he's done that, so now he's put on this really cool event, and so we've been in a coaching relationship, and recently, and so because he's in the process of starting his coaching practice, and so he wanted to have getting those first few coaching clients, and then so I'm working with him right now, so we're friends, but we're also like we're able to do that kind of coaching relationship as well, and be like, okay, for this 1 hour, we're in a coaching client relationship, and outside of this, we're back to regular friends again. Which he's not normally going to do that, but it's just because we've been friends for a long time, and it kind of it works for us. But as we were discussing it, and he's been watching my progress, and he's taken me through different exercises, and then he's seen there's been a lot of rapid change that has been occurring in just a few short weeks, with majority of that overlapping into the time that I'm fasting. He's definitely taking note that this is definitely the fast. He's like, wow, I definitely believe that you're being in this fasted state is definitely helping to facilitate many of these a lot of this progress that's happening. A lot of emotional stuff I've been working on, like healing deep childhood trauma, and I really do believe that being in this fasted state, because it has this like it's both like you're in a slightly surreal state of reality. You're able to like deal with other things. It's like you're outside the total norm, and so you're like, I don't know, you're able to see things at a slightly different angle now, and including yourself, and including your past and your traumas, and your mind, it's ever so much clearer. I think you have like increased level of being able to access things, access your unconscious, rediscover your traumas, being in a more, I think you're naturally in a more open state to receive coaching instruction, and be more open to change, and to shift things and transform things inside yourself, because it's like you're experiencing all this change happening in your body, and so you're just like, you start to be in this mindset of change. Things are changing, my body's changing, like, and then you be a little more intuitive and all this stuff, and I really believe that it really does make a difference. If any of you are doing any kind of coaching therapy work, going into some intensive workshop thing, any of that kind of stuff, I highly recommend doing a fast, and but of course timing it. You don't want to time it when if you've never done a fast, those first 3 days are usually that's the rough patch. So you don't want to try to time it if you're in the beginning. I mean, eventually you've cleaned up your diet, you've done it a few times, then your body transitions much faster. But in the first time doing it, it's going to be the most difficult. So possibly, I mean, it might not be that difficult for you. You might find out that only after a day or so you feel fine. But count on 3 days of hardship the first time, and then if you next time around you do it again, the 3 days won't be quite as hard, and then if you do it again, then it'll be even less hard, and that kind of thing. It's like your body starts to adjust, say, oh, okay, we regularly have little times of fasting, so it doesn't put up as much of a fight, but it's just like anything. It's like anything new. It's hard in the beginning, and then it gets easier. But we make the mistake of believing that it's hard in the beginning, and then it's just going to keep getting harder. But the opposite is true with fasting. So yeah, so time it. It's like if you got some coaching going on, or you got some special event that you're going to go to where it's like you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with emotional trauma, you're going to some special therapy event, which there's definitely another one that there's some other ones that I want to check out, at some point, later this year, that I now believe that you'll get the most out of it if you go there being in a fasted state, like hands down, guaranteed. You're definitely going to get way more out of it because you're not distracted by food. You're not using food as any comfort. The food isn't blocking, it's an impurity, because inevitably there's all these impurities in your system that cloud your judgment, cloud your insight, cloud your connection to your subconscious mind. And so by freeing all that up, by purifying, burning all that off, it's like you just have such more of a crystal clear mind and such more possibility of accessing things in yourself, to do the deep work that you want to do. So yeah, you could definitely do much deeper, harder mental work when you're in a fasted state than if you're not. And I definitely stand by that, for sure, And again, like, once you're at the stable state of the fasted state, not in the like I'm struggling to not eat anything state, and you're still thinking of food and your stomach's grumbling like crazy. I'm not talking about that part of the fast. I'm talking about after you get past that phase of the fast and you're entering into the like you no longer care about food phase of the fast. So so I'm talking like we're talking about like at least a week long kind of fast, so I would almost like, if you're planning on going to some special event that you're going to do some deep internal work on yourself, plan on starting the fast a week before, so that when you go to the event, you've already been fasted for a week, and now you don't care about food, and all you are is going deep diving into yourself and your emotions and your trauma. And I guarantee you, you're gonna so much more work will be accomplished for yourself during that time. I mean, I remember hearing about something like in the ancient Greeks, that many of the ancient Greek teachers, they refused to allow any students to show up to their class unless they were fasting, because they knew thousands of years ago, back then, that you don't learn very well when you're are engorged with food, that you're stuffing your faces with food, like eating, like having lunch breaks and eating food and stuff when you're at an event that is like you're going deep into some deep learning it's like actually completely counterproductive. You're actually impairing your ability to learn when you're eating, because now your body is busy processing food and not processing concepts. It's not busy absorbing the knowledge, noticing all the details, picking up all of the dynamics in the room, like feeling the energies and all that. It's too damn busy processing food and trying to battle against all the toxins that you've probably, half the food you ate there is probably all processed. So it's like you're doing yourself a huge disservice by eating food during workshops. It's like, eat food when you're doing your relatively mundane business, that you've already you got it down, you don't have to think too hard to do it, then that's normal. But it's like when you need to go to that extra level of in-depth study, dive knowledge study, and especially like deep dive into yourself, you get fasting. Fasting is the way to do it. Otherwise, you're robbing yourself of the full benefits. That's another thing that has definitely been a big aha through this experience. And so, I will continue doing my coaching sessions, and continuing getting a little lighter each day. I'm definitely feeling slimmer. Another thing I'm starting to notice today. Well, let's see. What else am I noticing? What am I starting to notice? I mean, my back. I mean, I was on my feet a lot during the day, and eventually my shoulder and stuff started really aching a lot because I wasn't just lying down at all throughout the whole day. So that's something I definitely realized with this injury. I need to just give myself a little more breaks, more frequent sit-down breaks to just rest my elbow on something to kind of take a little bit of the load off on my shoulder. But it for whatever reason, it feels a little different. I don't know. It was feeling different now. Almost there's like a thin layer of something coating around the bone that I didn't feel before. It felt a lot more like I felt a more direct contact with the bone before. And now I don't quite feel it. It's thickened up a little bit around the bone, and something kind of smoothed out. So I think something's finally happening now again since this last re-break that happened a few days ago. I think something's finally kicking in. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to be moving now. Like when I kind of move ever so slightly, it doesn't. Before it would just slide pretty easily, and now it's not. So perhaps today is the day it finally had some adhesion. Anyways, okay, this video's gone really long. I'll save the rest for, I have some other things I wanted to say, but I think I'll just save it for the next video. Anyways, so, it was a successful day 15, and got to sleep at 2 a.m. So anyways, all right, to the next one.